I thought Rowan was joking when he said I'd be the main lot tonight. My husband organizes exclusive events, private auctions for men with more money than morals. I've attended dozens, always as his elegant accessory, smiling on command. Tonight felt different from the moment I walked into our penthouse. Workers assembled something in the main hall: spotlights, a small platform, velvet ropes. I found Rowan adjusting a sleek device in the corner, its lens pointing toward the stage. "What's that for?" I asked. He smiled without looking up. "Documentation, quality assurance." The first guests arrived at 8. Expensive suits, quiet voices, the kind of men who buy art they'll never display. I recognized a few faces from previous events: a tech mogul, a shipping magnate, someone from old oil money. Rowan guided me to the center of the stage. The lights warmed my skin as conversations died. 30 pairs of eyes focused on me like I was a rare painting. "Gentlemen," Rowan's voice carried through the microphone. "Tonight's offering is extraordinary. One evening, no restrictions. Winner takes all." My breath caught. The room buzzed with interest, phones emerging to check account balances. This wasn't a joke. This was real. I stood frozen as Rowan squeezed my shoulder. "Starting bid is 50,000." A hand raised immediately, then another. The numbers climbed while I watched my marriage dissolve in real time. Sold to the highest bidder. The numbers rose like a fever dream: 75, 100, 125. I watched hands shoot up around the room, each bid reducing me to a commodity with a price tag. The tech mogul dropped out at 150. The oil money lasted until 200. By 250, only 3 men remained active, including one I hadn't noticed before. He sat in the back corner, silver-haired and calm. While others gestured frantically, he simply nodded when the auctioneer looked his way. No urgency, no desperation. Just quiet confidence that he'd get what he wanted. 275, called the shipping magnate, sweat beading his forehead. The stranger raised one finger. 300. The room fell silent. The shipping magnate shook his head. Defeated. No counter-offers came. "Sold," Rowan announced, to the gentleman in the back. Applause rippled through the crowd as the winner stood. He was older than me, mid-50s, I guessed, with steel gray eyes and a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. When he approached the stage, his movements carried an easy authority that made other men step aside. "Congratulations," Rowan said, shaking his hand. "She's all yours for the evening." The stranger's gaze found mine. "I prefer to think we're all yours for the evening, Mrs. He left the question hanging. "Jasmine," I managed. "Marcus." He offered his hand to help me down from the platform. "Shall we find somewhere more private?" Marcus led me toward the private dining room, his hand warm against the small of my back. The other guests watched our exit with expressions ranging from envy to anticipation, as if waiting for a show to begin. "You seem surprised," he said once we were alone. "Didn't you know what tonight would bring?" I thought it was one of Rowan's elaborate jokes. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. He likes dramatic gestures. Marcus poured 2 glasses of wine from the bottle waiting on the table. 300,000 isn't a joke. That's what I paid for your time." "Time," I tested the word. "Is that what we're calling it?" "We're calling it whatever you want to call it." He handed me a glass. "I don't take what isn't freely given." The wine was excellent, a Bordeaux that probably cost more than my monthly allowance. I drank deeply, needing the courage it might provide. "Why me?" I asked. "You could have any woman." "Could I?" Marcus sat across from me, studying my face. "Most women I meet want something: money, status, connections. You're the first I've encountered who's already been sold. That makes me honest. It makes you interesting." He leaned back in his chair. "Tell me, Jasmine, what do you want from tonight?" The question caught me off guard. What did I want? To feel desired instead of displayed? To matter more than my appearance? To stop being an ornament in someone else's collection? "I want to remember who I used to be," I said finally. Marcus smiled. "Then let's find her." Marcus had reserved the penthouse suite upstairs. As we entered, I noticed the small device mounted discreetly near the ceiling, its red light blinking steadily, just like the one Rowan had been adjusting earlier. "You know he's watching," I said. Marcus followed my gaze and nodded. "I assumed as much. Does that bother you? It should. I set down my wine glass, surprised by my own calm. But it doesn't. Good. Marcus moved closer, his presence filling the space between us. Because I think your husband wants to see something tonight. What's that? The woman he married. The one he's been hiding under all that careful control. His fingers traced the line of my jaw, and I didn't pull away. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not as decoration, but as a person with desires of my own. He thinks he owns me, I whispered. Do you think he owns you? I met Marcus's eyes in the dim light. No. What happened next belonged to us, not to the watching lens or the man behind it. Marcus's hands were patient, reverent, treating me like something precious that had been mishandled too long. The suite's windows overlooked the city lights, and I felt as though I was seeing the world clearly for the first time. When the door closed behind us later, we had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I wasn't the same woman who had stood on that stage. I found Rowan in his study at midnight, watching footage on his laptop. The screen showed Marcus and me in the suite, the intimate moments reduced to digital pixels. He'd been recording everything. Enjoying the show? I asked from the doorway. Rowan looked up without shame. You were magnificent, exactly what I hoped you'd become. What you hoped? I stepped into the room, no longer the obedient wife who'd stood on his stage. This was planned, orchestrated. He closed the laptop and pulled out a leather folder. Marcus isn't a stranger, Jasmine. He's my business partner. We've been discussing you for months. The folder contained receipts, contracts, correspondence. $300,000 had indeed changed hands, but not as payment for me. It was Marcus's investment in Rowan's next venture. You sold our marriage to fund your business? I sold the idea of our marriage. Rowan's smile was cold. The reality was already dead. This just made it profitable. I thought of Marcus's gentle hands, his patient questions, the way he looked at me like I mattered. Was any of it real? His attraction to you, completely real. His willingness to pay for the privilege, that was business. Rowan stood, straightening his tie. But you enjoyed it, didn't you? I saw your face on the recording. I had enjoyed it. That was the truth that burned through my anger. For one evening, I'd felt alive again. What happens now? I asked. Now everyone knows what I have, and what I'm willing to share. Rowan moved toward the door. Marcus will call tomorrow. He's very interested in a longer arrangement. He paused at the threshold. You're worth more as a willing participant than a reluctant ornament, darling. Tonight proved that. Marcus called the next morning, just as Rowan predicted. I answered on the third ring, standing by the same windows where I'd watched the city lights with him. How much did you know? I asked without preamble. About the business arrangement? Everything. About how it would feel to hold you? Nothing. His voice was warm, honest. Last night surprised me too. So what are you buying, Marcus? My husband's wife or my compliance? Neither. I'm offering you a choice. I heard papers rustling, the sound of decisions being made with money. Rowan needs my investment to survive his debt. Without it, he loses everything. The penthouse, the business, the lifestyle you've known. And with it he prospers, and you decide what role you want to play in that prosperity. The choice crystallized before me. I could return to being Rowan's ornament, pretending last night never happened. Or I could step into the power I'd glimpsed in Marcus's arms. What would this arrangement look like? I asked. Dinners, travel, companionship when I'm in the city. Nothing you don't want to give. Marcus paused. And enough money to make you independent, if you choose to use it that way. I'll think about it, I told Marcus. Take your time. The offer stands. After I hung up, I found the contracts Rowan had left on his desk. The numbers were staggering. Marcus's investment would solve every problem, fund every dream. But the price wasn't mine to pay any more. It was Rowan's. 3 weeks later, I signed the papers in Marcus's downtown office. Not as Rowan's wife, but as an equal partner in a new venture. The same device that had recorded my submission now documented my transformation. Marcus had been true to his word. Dinners, yes. Travel, certainly. But also board meetings where my opinion mattered. investments in my name, a life that belonged to me. Rowan attended the signing ceremony, his smile tight with the realization that his perfect plan had backfired. He'd wanted to make me valuable by sharing me. Instead, he taught me my own worth. Any regrets? Marcus asked as we left the building together. I considered the question. Did I regret the marriage that had reduced me to property? The husband who'd sold me to save himself? The night that had awakened something I'd thought was dead? Only that it took so long, I said. My phone buzzed with a text from Rowan. Dinner tonight? We should discuss terms. I deleted it without responding. Those terms had already been negotiated. The auction was over, the bidding complete. I'd won. Marcus took my arm as we walked toward the car. Where to, partner? Anywhere but home. I smiled, feeling the weight of possibility ahead of us. I'm ready for a new game entirely. The city stretched before us, full of opportunities I'd never dared to imagine. For the first time in years, I wasn't someone's ornament or prize. I was simply myself. And that was worth more than any price Marcus or Rowan could have paid. The engine hummed beneath us as Marcus pulled into traffic, the city lights beginning to flicker on in the early evening. I rolled down the window, letting the cool air wash over my face, carrying with it the scent of freedom I'd almost forgotten existed. You know, Marcus said, glancing at me with that familiar crooked smile. I never told you why I really came to the auction that night. I turned to face him fully. I assumed it was business. Another deal to broker, another profit to make. He shook his head, fingers drumming against the steering wheel. My sister went through something similar. Not an auction, but close enough. She didn't make it out. His voice caught slightly. When I heard about your situation through my contacts, I couldn't just stand by. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. All this time, I'd assumed Marcus was just another player in the game, someone who saw an opportunity and took it. But there had been something deeper driving him, something personal and painful that had led him to risk everything for a stranger. Marcus, I don't, he said gently. You don't owe me anything. What you did in there, standing up to both of them like that, Sarah would have been proud. We drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city transforming around us, from the sterile business district to neighborhoods that actually felt alive. Street vendors called out their wares, children played in small parks, and couples walked hand in hand down sidewalks lined with cafes and bookshops. I have a proposition, Marcus said as we stopped at a red light. And before you say anything, this one's different. No contracts, no obligations, no strings attached. I raised an eyebrow, curious despite myself. I'm opening a consulting firm. Legitimate business, helping companies navigate complex negotiations and acquisitions. I could use someone with your intelligence, your ability to read people. He paused. The pay's good, the work's honest, and you'd be a partner, not an employee. The light turned green, and we continued forward. I considered his offer, turning it over in my mind like a puzzle piece, looking for the hidden catches and ulterior motives I'd been trained to expect. But I found none, just a genuine opportunity from someone who understood what it meant to start over. Why me? I asked, finally. Because you just outplayed two of the most powerful men in the city without breaking a sweat. Because you know what it's like to have everything taken from you and still find the strength to fight back. And because, he smiled, I think we make a good team. I looked out at the city again, seeing it not as a maze of threats and obligations, but as a canvas of possibilities. Somewhere out there was an apartment I could call my own, work that would challenge and fulfill me, and maybe even relationships built on choice rather than transaction. All right, partner, I said, extending my hand. Let's see what we can build together. He shook it firmly, and I felt the last chains of my old life finally fall away.